Apologies.
Member for and Blackwood.
Member for and Blackwood.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. I also rise to speak to this motion that this House condemns the Cook Labor Government for its failure to deliver core services and infrastructure in regional Western Australia. As a member of the Warren Blackwood, I want to bring the voices of my community into this chamber. Voices that are too often left out of the conversation when it comes to investment, infrastructure and access to basic services in regional West Australia. Let me start in Margaret River, a town known internationally for its wines and natural beauty, but one that today is grappling with a very local crisis, the overcrowding of the Margaret River High School. Built to serve 650 students, the school is now bursting at the seams with more than 1,200 enrolled students and projected to grow beyond 2,000 in coming years. Teachers have been forced to give up their own staff room just to make space. Specialist programs like home economics, woodwork and dance are now being run out of unsuitable transportables. The school has no spare rooms, none, and nowhere else to put any more transportables. It's bursting at the seams, and still we've seen no commitment from this government to commence stage 2 of the expansion. Funding that was committed by the Liberal National Government back in 2016 and 17. It's not just about Margaret River. The broader region faces a lack of serious infrastructure planning, and nowhere is more obvious than the South West Highway between Bridgetown and Manjimup. This stretch of road is a major freight and tourism artery, used daily by school buses, heavy trucks, caravans and locals. But where are the passing lanes? Drivers are stuck behind slow-moving traffic for 20, 30, sometimes 40 kilometres, a dangerous and inefficient situation. It's simply not good enough on a highway that serves one of the state's key agricultural zones. When we talk about roads, we're not just talking about convenience, we're talking about safety, productivity and access. The lack of safe overtaking infrastructure is putting people at risk and stifling the movement of goods and services in our region. And when we look at another vital industry, forestry, what we see is not just a lack of investment, but a lack of transparency. Timber auctions have gone quiet, specialty log recovery is poorly managed, and ecological thinning, a practice critical to forest health and bushfire risk reduction, is falling far short of the targets set out of the new forest management plan. But beyond forest operations themselves, there are serious concerns about the Native Forest Transition Fund. The $80 million package the government announced to support workers, businesses and the communities affected by the end of native forestry. In theory, it's a good idea. In practice, the process has been opaque and inconsistent. We're hearing from operators and businesses who were eligible but had no contact and received no compensation from the transition package. And there is little public clarity on the criteria, timeframes or outcomes of grant decisions under this program. This is public money allocated to help regional families and businesses navigate one of the biggest structural changes the industry has ever faced. And yet people most impacted are left wondering where the money is going and why they're not being supported. Where's the transparency? We need a clear explanation of how decisions are being made, who is receiving funds and how equity is being maintained across the transition. This isn't just a forestry issue, this is a governance issue. And this House should expect better from a government agency, a ministerial process that claims to be supporting regional transition. And when we talk about gaps in services, few are more critical than healthcare and aged care in regional WA. At Manjimup Hospital, there's no CT scanner, a service taken for granted in the city. This means patients requiring urgent imaging have to be transported hours away, delaying diagnosis and adding unnecessary strain to patients, carers, volunteers and emergency services. For a growing community with a significantly older population, this is unacceptable. Aged care facilities across the region are also under pressure, not just in terms of beds, but staff, respite service and allied health support. We're seeing more and more families struggle to care for ageing parents with local resources. Having to move to another town just to find a bed in an aged care facility is unacceptable. To move away from your support networks and family is incredibly hard on all those involved. One area that also needs urgent attention is the lack of women's shelters and crisis accommodation across the Warren Blackwood. Family and domestic violence doesn't stop at the city limits. In fact, it's often hard to escape in small towns where anonymity is impossible and support services are far away. I've spoken with frontline workers who are doing extraordinary work, but they're being forced to turn people away due to a lack of space, funding and case management support. These services are not a luxury, they're a lifeline. And this government must prioritise investment in safe housing for women and children in regional WA. Finally, I want to speak to the quiet frustration I'm hearing from families, business owners and the community leaders in growing towns like Cowarama and Denmark. These are towns that are expanding rapidly and they're doing it without the infrastructure to match. Roads, waste system, mains water, sporting facilities, digital connectivity, the list of pressure points is growing by the month. What was once a small town has become a hub for young families, lifestyle changes and tourists. But with that growth has come traffic congestion, inadequate parking, childcare wait lists and increasing pressure on schools, doctors and community services. Cowarama is a perfect example of where planning policy infrastructure delivery simply hasn't kept pace with reality. So I say this, Warren Blackwood is not asking for special treatment, we're asking for fair treatment. We contribute to the state's economy through agriculture, forestry, tourism, mining and small business. We send our kids to public schools, we rely on our regional health services and we support one another through volunteering, fundraising and community action. But the government needs to meet us halfway. We need better roads, we need funded school expansions, we need consultation and transparency in government decision making. We need health, aged care and crisis services that recognise our geography and our growing population. This is a region that punches above its weight. It deserves a government that was willing to show up, listen and invest in its future. And we've seen over the past 4 years it's a failure to deliver core services in regional WA. Thank you.